Chapter 8 was all about two different types of collections. You have arrays and you have lists. I would say the most important thing for you to know about these two, of course, I'm assuming you've looked at the material, but is that arrays are finite. They have bounds. There's only so many. When you define an array, you define an array with only so many values in it. It can have less values, but you can't have more. Lists can grow and shrink dynamically. And as you go through your life with this, you'll find these kind of ideas in other languages too. And it's really up to you and maybe talk to some other developers to figure out which is the best one to use for the case that you're actually in. What I've done here is I've opened up the solution, and I guess I should have done that when you were watching. But anyway, I open up the solution again from my exercise starts chapter 8. This one is invoice total because I'm starting on page 267 with exercise 8.1. All right, so let's have a look at this guy. I think we more or less we're just working on it. But this is the solution file. So there he is, invoice total. When we run it, no, we weren't. That's right. We're doing the future value, I think. Anyway, so if I put basically 100 in and I hit the enter button, there it is. Right there's my discount. If I go exit, actually, sorry, a key thing to remember about this is that this data is only like, there's just one of them, right? I put like 100, one row if you want. And now if I go 200, there's no memory of this. Nothing I've done matters. And as soon as I go exit, the whole thing's gone. What we're going to do is we're going to get this thing to remember all the values that were actually put in. Think of it like the calculator with a little ticker tape where you hit, not, I don't know how many you remember those, but you type, you hit the button and it writes stuff out onto the piece of paper. Now what we want to do is tear off the piece of paper and look to see what's actually in there. All right, so what we're going to need in here before we get going is we're going to need an index and an actual array. And I guess what you probably should have done is had a slide for that so I could show you what I was talking about. Oh my goodness. It's probably just as easy just for me to do it, I think. Yeah, I think I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. So right about here. So there's my to do, right? That's very nice. By the way, that's a fairly good strategy to do when you're doing your programs, is have a little to do comment line and say what you're going to do in a minute. So I'm going to be storing the values, by the way, the final totals. So the final total is a decimal. So I do want to have a decimal. Now, if I just basically went decimal, invoice, totals, array, I'm going to be pretty close to what the solution is. If I just did that, that is a scalar variable. It is one value only. Instead, what I really want to do is I basically want to make it an array. And there's our new piece of code right there. Notice that this guy freaks out right away, and he's not freaking out because I need a semicolon. He's freaking out for a different reason now, but he's basically uninitialized at this point. What I'm going to do is I'm going to initialize this thing to a decimal array of 5 values. So this thing can handle 5 entries. And sorry, excuse me, it's going to be a new decimal array. So basically, this thing creates the variable. This one will then assign it to a new instance, if you want, of decimal, of a 5-entry decimal array. All right, good deal. Now to navigate through this, we're going to have an index. So we want to look at the first one. We're going to be looking at the 0th index value, and then we look at the second one, it'll be the 1, and so on. So we need to actually have an index here, and I'm going to basically go here, total index is assigned 0. So we're going to start with the 0. Right, none of these things are used, so it's mad, but other than that, not a big deal. Now what happens is that after we start creating, like way down here in this program, right there, we know what the total is. I want to store that total into an array. Pretty easy. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to basically say that the invoice total array And what is the element of that total array? It's going to be the total index. I think that's what I called it. Or I can't remember what I called it, but I think I called it that. Is assigned the invoice total. Arguably, by the way, I should have maybe considered putting this code up here. Remember, again, my input output processing thing. So this is processing. This is the actual output. This is would be, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because I can't. My instincts are going crazy right now. Let's just do this. So after we calculate the invoice total, we slam it into total index. Now, tell you what, let's use our debugger and show you what's going to happen now when I do this. So let's go up to, where did I put it? So right there. Notice, by the way, this code has to be outside of the click event. So basically they are class variables. Now they stay outside because the click event is only going to fire off when I click on the calculate button. The next time I fire off the calculate button, it's going to be all these new variables again. So I have to have these things persistent. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put myself at the try. So I'm going to do, I'm going to run it. And I'm going to go 100. I'm going to hit the calculate button. Boom. All right. So now let's pay attention down here to what's going on. So notice it's coming in with the invoice total and the invoice total. Actually, it's got nothing to do with what I wanted to say. Okay, so forget it. Let's keep moving. So F11, we don't care. We don't care. We don't care. We don't care. I'm going to keep going down all this stuff. That's great. Now we're just about to do something interesting. So the discount amount is this. The invoice total is this. We're going to go into that guy and we're going to go boom. And so now I've got myself, where are you? All right. So actually, I'm not seeing what I wanted to see. I was hoping to see, oh, I'm not seeing it yet. No, I should be past that line. So I'm hoping to see, actually, this is my invoice total, but I guess I lost it. All right. Not sure where I would have been able to see that array. That would have been really cool to see it, but I can't see it, so I'm just going to keep going. In fact, I'm just going to just stop this madness and take out that breakpoint. Maybe later I'll try to figure that out, but for now, just trust me that right now the 0th element is going to have that invoice total. Now we don't want to have the 0th element having that invoice total the whole time, so I do need to increment it, right? I do need to increment the 0th total, and so in this case, I'm going to go total index increment. All right. So if I run it, we won't see anything here, but if I go 100 and then I go like 101, 102, in the background somewhere, that collection is being added to. All right, cool. But now where are we going to actually see it? Where are we actually going to see it? And so what we kind of need to do is navigate back through that array. We're going to see it when we leave. Right when we leave. So let's get myself set up right away with a little message box. Message box dot shoe, and we're gonna go finished. All right, and let's do this just so we can see the message box fire off. And we're gonna go and have 100, 101. We go exit. Now it's gonna be finished. So awesome. So the message box is doing great. So now what I want to do is I want to basically build up that that element. So rather, build up the message in that box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have basically a message variable. Sorry, it's going to be a string first. String, and it's going to be a message variable. Awesome. It's currently right now going to be starting its life with nothing in it. And then at this point, let's do this. Let's just go message is assigned. And it was invoice total, right? Invoice total array, 0th element. All right. And actually, we're going to have to convert that because remember, message is a string. The 0th element is a decimal. So I'm going to go to string, and that should take care of that, right? You're not taking care of it. You're not mad. Cannot implicitly convert that to a string. Oh, you know what? Sure. How about that? Will that make you better? All right. So, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, instead of finished, I'm going to go finished, but I'm going to have the message. Let's go. I'm going to go 100. Now if I exit right now, boom, $90 because that's what's happening here in the total. Awesome. If let's run it again. Let's go 100. Let's go 101. 90.9, notice. Only the 0th element's coming out. That's not totally what we want. We want the message to be built up so it shows every single one of those elements. And so that's where looping comes in. See, all this stuff from the other chapters is coming in. Looping is coming in. So we're going to start our string, and now we just need to know how do we loop through an array. So it's a for each, and then at this point, I'm going to go the decimal. This could be anything. Let's say I want decimal X is in the actual invoice totals array. So for each of those, I'm going to assign it X. Yeah, actually, so X is in the array. I don't need to reference the array again. All I got to do is basically just go X to string. Okay, so decimal X is an element in the array. Grab that X and then convert it to a currency. So let's run it. And let's go 100. Let's go 100 or 200 even. Let's go 300. Let's exit and watch what happens. Boom, we get nothing. How come I got nothing, by the way? There's 0. That is weird. Oh, because, yeah. One thing I should have done, by the way, I was trying to demonstrate a couple errors in that processing, but this one is not my deal. What I should have done, first of all, is it should have gone plus equals, right? So I kind of, what I want to do is I want to basically build up my message. I'm also going to add end of string thing. So add a new line, and boy, oh boy. Okay, I'm just double quoting like crazy. All right, so I'm going to add a new line. What? There it is. Okay, I'm okay with that. Let's move next. There's one other problem at least. Well, there's 2 other problems at least, but let's do this. So let's go 100, 200. Okay, whatever, 29, 300. That's even worse. Oh, subtotal's got to be greater than whatever. Let's have a look. Sorry, why? Oh, another scam likely call. All right, let's go and change that to 300. Let's exit. All right, so look at all those values that made it in. Now, I'm not entirely sure where those zeros are coming from. I think it might have come at the end. I do notice that the solution file basically has a special treatment where they basically say if X is 0. So they're basically saying right in here, if, yeah, they'll basically say if X is not 0, right? And let's put that in parentheses here. So if X is not 0, then go ahead and do this thing. All right, and that will solve that problem. But there's one more gross thing that it's a trivial thing, but I still want to fix it. So it's going to be 100, 10, whatever, 20, whatever. Boy, man, I'm losing it there. And then 30. Nothing's working here. Anyway, so that looks good. It's stored in memory. That's awesome. Don't ever do X. That's my last problem here. Don't ever do X. They in their solution, they've gone ahead and they called that thing total. They call that thing total. And sure, I think that makes a lot of sense. Awesome. All right, it's working great. Now, there's a problem though, which you may have noticed. This thing can only handle 5 elements. So let's run it and let's enter more than 5 elements. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, bang, it blows up. So our past selves wouldn't really know what to do with this, but our future selves or our present selves actually do, because we went ahead and paid attention to exceptions. And here's our exception that's handling here, right here. It's index out of range exception, because it's fixed. So what we kind of need to do is we need to put this whole thing into a try. It already is, thankfully, because there's our catch format exception. So what we can do is add another catch. I can go catch, put that thing in there, the index out of range exception, and basically say something to the effect of message box show, and basically say only can have 5 elements. There's a bunch of stuff we probably want to do to the actual a bunch of stuff we could do to our user interface. Like we could actually have a countdown, for example. It would go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We could control that through the labels even. But for the ease of this program, I'm not going to do that. Let's go that, shut down the debug, run it again. And we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oop, poop. Anyway, element can only have 5 elements, or only can have 5 elements. So that was sort of a quick take on the index out of range exception, which, geez, it should have probably, that was number 6. I haven't been telling you where I've been with all of this, but basically when we created those 2 variables at the very, very top, the class variables, that was, so lines 21, 22. So that was basically question number 2. 3 was add code that adds invoice totals to the next element in the array. We are doing that right there on these 2 lines. 52 actually adds it to a particular element. 53 increments the index, which will control the next element that gets updated. Number 4 says add code that displays the totals. We just did that over here in the exit button. We create a blank message. We go through a loop, grabbing each element out of the array and then appending it onto the message. And then at the end, we show it on line 95. Number 5 is to test it, which we did. Number 6 is we entered more than 5 value invoices, in which case it blew up. So that becomes an index out of range exception. So then we did a try except. That's awesome. So now, while we're here, we could probably actually plow through at least 7 and maybe, yeah, we'll do 7. I'll stop it and then I'll do the list question, which was number 9. All right, so it says, hey, you can like sort this thing too. Did you know you can sort this thing? Well, you actually can sort this thing by using a pretty powerful function. So invoice total array is the array. Well, maybe here I've initialized the message. I can actually go ahead and say, I would like you to, okay, let me actually undo that. I would like you to use the array. Remember how you got convert is a very powerful object. It's got a bunch of methods in it. Well, arrays is also an object, and it's got a sort method. And I could say, can you please sort the invoice array? So then when I run it, and I'm going to put things in reverse order, I'm going to go 300, 200, 100. Now I'm going to exit it there are invoices in reverse order. So that's kind of a neat example of the stuff that array can do. Array has other ideas too, including like a binary search, the book talked about. I think it's got, yeah, so you can go in reverse order for your sort. You can figure out things like you can find something exists. So there's some really interesting ideas that are in there. But for using my hard drive, we're going to stop right there, and then when I come back, I'll look at number 9, where we do the entire thing again, but we do it with the lists. Remember, arrays are bound by how many entries? Lists are not bound; they are unbound. So we'll do it with a list when we pick up again.